So as I was saying, thank you for having me and good morning, teachers. We're looking at a word called feedback, and we usually are aware of it. It's not a new concept. It's not a new term. It's not something that we are not aware of. Uh, but I will take a moment to ask you, what is the difference between a feedback and a comment? Someone comments and says, "Wow, lovely sari." What is the difference between a feedback and a comment, according to you? Anyone for the chat box? Or even unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and tell me.
Uh, Feedback could be, I'm Neelam, yeah, ma'am.
Yes, yes, Neelam got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So feedback could be some honest suggestions whereby you can improve yourselves. And the other thing that you said, comment could be sarcastic also. It could be positive or negative. It could carry both.
Very good. That's nice. Feedback can be positive or negative. Comments also can be positive or negative. Feedback is not judgmental. These are things that I'm getting to hear
Yeah.
chat box. That feedback is not emotional. Thank you very much. So we are making that distinction between something that is meant for a purpose and not meant casually, right? We all make comments, we listen to comments, but we are talking about a certain skill. Now, this skill comes within the ambit of communication. And communication is a huge skill in building relationships, of which speaking is a part and silence is a part. Silence is it's a very important part of the communication skill as well. So in a very broad umbrella concept called communication, which would involve something like, say, conflict resolution. It could be something like how to be more assertive. It could be how to understand my mind and how the word comes through. I'm looking at language and communication as a deeply psychological part of our being. There is an inner drive that either makes us speak or makes us quiet, or molds us into using certain words in a certain tone. It just comes from within us, right? So it's not something on the surface, the language that comes from outside and goes outside. It's a part of our personality. And therefore, we are looking at the giving of feedback as a part of a contribution towards communication and relationship building. On my slide, what I have put down is that we have an agenda today. We are looking at the basic rules for giving and receiving feedback. I'm using the word rules very conscientiously. They are not rules, they are guidelines. But they are also tips. I've used the word tips over there. And there are many. We are going to look at some of them. And why are we doing that? So that we develop interpersonal skills and we make the place more effective, the place that we are working in. And then we also ensure that as teachers, we are able to create a very trusting environment for healthy communication. These are the three key objectives that we are looking at today. One is the skill itself. How do I give that feedback? What are the rules and the guidelines associated with it? One, why do we need to give feedback? We are trying to build a team of healthy co-workers, which means we are giving feedback to one another as well, not just to our children, our students. And we are also trying to see how to create a safe environment. Now, this is important, right? When I tell you something which I think is for your good, but you feel that you are being threatened or you are being harassed, then we have not created that safe communication environment. Okay, so how do we create that happy, healthy work environment where we are able to freely share our opinions about one another, so that we get better as human beings and as teachers? All right. So going on, the one point we have covered now is to say that feedback is different from comment. Uh, in feedback, the intention is to help. And it is important because we need to know what others are thinking about us. If we don't have feedback, we might. And we are going to begin with a small concept from positive psychology. It's by a psychologist by the name of Eric Berne, B-E-R-N-E. If I had my slides, I would have shown you the name, but it's Eric Berne. We're waiting for the PowerPoint to open. Yeah, move on. Anyway, so Eric Berne had said that, next slide, please. Next. Okay. No. One slide ahead. And please go to the PowerPoint mode, to that cup over there, so that we get it one at a time. All right, I'm going to introduce you to the word strokes. You can see it on your screen, S-T-R-O-K-E-S. A stroke literally means a gentle touch. You know, when you're holding a little baby, when you're touching its cheeks, no, that gentle is the literal meaning of the word strokes. In psychology and in positive psychology, this is how it is introduced. It is like you have a unit of measurement. A stroke is a unit of interaction. It is not the same as praise, and it is important for a child's survival. It's a hunger, it's a thirst. Like we have physical thirsts and hungers, there is an emotional and psychological thirst and hunger for a stroke. Okay, so we are looking at the word stroke a little differently now. And we are saying it's not praise, but it is a piece of communication that does something to the child, right? So our key framework today to give and receive feedback comes from the word strokes. Can I have the next slide, please? So there are these different types of strokes. Can you put it on the PowerPoint mode instead of putting it like this in the slide mode? Can you do enable editing and use it? Because I don't want everything to come up together like this, if you don't mind. Yes, thank you. Anyway, the entire screen has come in. Thank you very much. We have different types of strokes, right? It's verbal or it's non-verbal. It can be positive or it can be negative. It can be conditional or it can be unconditional. So I have put verbal, positive, conditional, but you're not supposed to read it like this. You're supposed to read it one after the other like this. So it can be, strokes can be verbal or non-verbal. Can you give me an example of a verbal stroke? To recognize someone. It's a unit of recognition. Anyone?
Call by names.
To call someone by name, very good.
To call by names.
Yes. To call someone by name would be a verbal. You know, when someone...
To praise the child.
To praise.
Well done.
Yeah. So I just said that a stroke is not praise, okay? Of course, to praise someone is a good stroke to give.
It's a good stroke.
Let's say, what is a non-verbal stroke? Action, right? It can also be an action. Let's do this a little slowly. Verbal stroke is I'm saying something. Non-verbal positive stroke. What can a non-verbal but positive stroke be? It could be an action, right? It could be this thumbs up that you do. It could be a clap. It's not. It could be a smile.
Gestures.
Yes.
Different gestures.
Gestures that you make. I'll just repeat this in case I was not heard. This is not just about children. We are taking the words from a psychology that is meant for children. But I want us also to know that the adult is only a grown-up child. So even if we are 50 years old, if someone says, well done, do you feel happy? It's a recognition for something that we have done. So there is a non-verbal positive are all these signs. Verbal negative is don't, stop. All these kinds of words that we use. I don't like it. Don't do it. You are like that. It's verbal negative. Let's say action positive, a positive action as a stroke. Can you think of something? Like when you throw a party for someone, or when you give an award to someone, or you put all those 5 stars in class, or that's like action. You're not telling, but you take, or you visit someone in the hospital. Can I go to the next slide and then come back to this slide? Yes, raise a toast. Yeah, look at the action strokes. You visit a person at the hospital. You're not saying anything, I am doing you a good deed. You're just visiting the person. In the COVID times, picking up the phone and talking to someone who is alone. Okay, it's an action stroke. You're telling that person indirectly, I remember you, I'm thinking of you. So you talk to that person. And that person is happy that you have called and you remembered. So that's a positive action stroke. Some things we do almost as a routine, taking our child from here to there, to one place to the other, cooking for whoever we like. All these are strokes that we are giving, and these are non-verbal action strokes. Can we go to the earlier slide again? Yes, we are looking now at conditional strokes and unconditional strokes. Remember, you can have non-verbal conditional, non-verbal unconditional. You can have verbal conditional, verbal unconditional. You can have a combination. You can have verbal, negative, unconditional. You can have non-verbal, positive, conditional. You can have all these combinations. Am I clear with what I'm saying? Is it okay? Yes, Neelam? Yeah, anyway. Right. So Dam and Neelam, thank you very much for your response. Just because I'm not able to see you people, I'm trying to figure out how to get your reaction and response. So yes, let's say conditional. I put that within brackets. Conditional is for the work done. Yeah. You made a good presentation. Conditional. Okay. Your handwriting is very neat. Conditional. Today's mutton biryani was very good. It's for a specific task done. Yeah. Unconditional, or you are a fantastic person. You are just so good. Everything you do is so nice. You are perfect. This is unconditional positive. Unconditional negative, you are hopeless. You are no good. Now I'm telling you these words because we may have heard some of these statements. People are very generous with their negative feedback. People always tell you are like this, your family is like this. And you can imagine the sense of hurt, even if you're 30 years old or 40 years old, what that means, and what it makes us feel, what it makes us go through. It's in this format, within this framework, that I'm going to look at the giving and receiving of feedback. So unconditional feedback is not specific. It is for the person. Conditional feedback is for a specific task that a person has done. It's a stroke, and we will see how that stroke is given. Next slide, please. There's one more missing, one before this. Okay, all right, let's go ahead to the next one. Next. And next. Now, this is important over here. There are positive strokes, there are negative strokes, there are conditional strokes, there are unconditional strokes. A positive stroke is 100% better than a negative stroke. And a negative stroke is far, far better than no stroke. Now, this no stroke is important. We do this as adults. No stroke is ignoring a person. Sometimes a person is even walking right in front of us and we pretend that we have not seen that person. That is a very damaging stroke to give. Sometimes you have a meeting, in the meeting room, there are people sitting and we talk only to one person and we don't look at the others. They're very, very bad strokes that we are giving. Someone asks us a question, we pretend we haven't heard. We do that at home too. We ignore people. So what Eric Byrne tells us is that even if it's a negative stroke, give it. It means you're acknowledging the presence of that person. But not giving a stroke at all can really wipe out a person's identity. Now, my guess is that many of us have become teachers. Many of us, right, have become teachers because we've got a lot of those kinds of strokes in our childhood. You are so good, you are so neat, you're so considerate, you're so kind, you're so interested in the other's welfare, almost like a social worker, you're so intelligent. Now, if we have got all those kinds of strokes, it becomes a script for us, and then our personality gets molded like that. Imagine when we tell a child, you are careless. What kind of a stroke is that? Can someone tell me when we tell a child, you're careless, our own child or whoever? Negative and what? Negative unconditional, perfectly right. Now, a negative unconditional stroke is no good. A negative conditional stroke has to be given. But how do we give all of that is what this training is about. Right? So can we go to the next slide, please? Let's look at this. Thank you for the coffee. That is very kind of you. What kind of a stroke is that? Positive plus? Positive conditional. Very good. It's positive conditional. And the next one, you are very kind. Now, someone makes coffee for us and we say, oh, you're so kind. We don't say you're kind because you made the coffee. So it is positive, unconditional. That's right, Sarika, positive, unconditional. Are you able to get me, team, teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yes,
we have
ma'am.
to be careful about how we are using it, right? Let's look at the next one, which says, I don't like it when you keep your room untidy. What would that be? What kind of a stroke?
It is a negative unconditional.
It's a negative conditional. The condition is you don't keep your room clean. That's why I don't like it, right? But the next one, you are untidy, telling about the person, not about the task. That becomes negative,
Unconditional.
unconditional, no matter what you do. Now, see how many times we use that with our own children, with our partners, with family members. How many times we use negative unconditional? Every time we say, you are like this. We have to make that little shift from when we are giving a negative feedback to make it negative conditional and not make it negative unconditional. You are arrogant. No. We should be able to say, you keep interrupting me. That I don't like. Then that's a negative feedback, a negative stroke, but it's conditional. You're very nice, but this thing I don't like about you. Yep. Next slide, please. Negative unconditional is most damaging, but we feel safe about saying this to our children because we know they will come back to us nevertheless. Can you see how what we are doing to our children? Yes, Apurva, can you unmute yourself and ask me the question?
Ma'am, please will you explain it again about conditional and unconditional?
Sure.
Positive.
Sure, Apurva and the others. Condition means there is a condition attached to it. It's limited, right? The condition is the work that is being done. Unconditional is for the person. No conditions at all. You're talking about the person. So conditional will be You made mutton biryani very well. One item, this you did well. Unconditional, you're a fantastic cook. Everything you do is good, so there are no conditions attached. So when you direct your attention to one task, to what a person is doing, that makes it conditional. When you're focusing your attention to the person, that makes it unconditional.
Okay.
One is the work, focuses on the work, and one is focused on the person. Is that clear, Apurva?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. Can you give me one example of an unconditional positive stroke?
Good feedback.
No, give me a sentence. You are. It has to start with you are. It is not connected to one task. It is. You are a good dancer.
You are a good dancer.
Now, what is this? Conditional or unconditional?
It is unconditional.
Yeah. Now make it conditional.
Um,
Conditional will be this
Your-
performance that you gave today was very good.
okay. Okay.
I like your dance, Sujata. That is
And-
unconditional. Yeah. I like it when you dance. You're good. But when you say the performance you made today, that is very good. That makes it conditional. Is that all right? When students come and tell at a postgraduate level, ma'am, this lecture was very good. This lecture was very good. What is that? What is that?
Conditional.
Conditional and
Positive.
positive. Thank you very much, Apurva. Are we good to go ahead?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So gradually you will remember that you don't have to know it.
Positive.
Yes, please. Who was that? I'm sorry, I heard a sound.
It's positive conditional, ma'am, Sudham.
All right.
You answered the last question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So look at the slide, which says that, how many times we use these words with the people we really love, people we really care for, and we say things like you and your family and, your neighborhood, your school. We make all those kinds of remarks. The biggest wound for people is not being accepted for who they are, for not being valued. That can hurt a person a great deal. Okay, so, you have a child who has an untidy room. I'll do that when I'm doing a feedback. It's an untidy room. Instead of telling the child, you are untidy, it's a good thing to say, please keep your books in place. And then say, please keep the clothes in place, one at a time. Instead of saying, books are here, clothes are there, everything is everywhere, you are untidy. It's not the person. Yeah, you have to focus on that task. But I want you to understand how hurtful it is when people are not acknowledged. So kindly don't ignore anybody. When someone gives you a call, when someone writes you an email, I know we can't immediately respond to it, but in a matter of time, if we are able to go back to the person, then you will feel that that person is being acknowledged. We use these kinds of strokes, right? We say, if you eat this, you're a good child. Now, I will not get into the depths of this, but I want you to know that this is how we build the personality of a child. If you do this, you will get praise. In order to get the praise, the child will go on doing that which will make you happy in order to get the praise. All right. Now, if the child is not able to get that praise, the child will throw a tantrum. The child will throw a glass and look back at you to see if you have seen it. Will make a sound because it wants your attention and it knows that you will shout at it. But negative stroke is better than not getting a stroke. So children who make all that noise, even adults, right, who misbehave, who talk loudly, who shout. They want attention. That's what positive psychology tells us. We'll move on to the next slide. This is the last bit on strokes. Some of us have grown in an environment where we may not have been stroked enough. In India, we don't think it is necessary to praise someone. We think that as parents, we have to be strict, as teachers, we have to be strict, which is fine the way we go. But I'm also introducing you to how beautiful it is for the child to hear praise, just like it is for us. I want to share a personal example here that, I was 26 years old when I was doing my MPhil, I think. My MPhil teacher my MPhil guide would never praise anybody. And she's a very senior teacher, very senior professor. And when I wrote my first chapter, on the side, she just wrote in a red pen, good. Just that, okay? I carried that paper with me for at least 20 years after that. We were moving places and places and places just because she wrote good on that margin. I threw every other paper I had, but that, and I was not even young. So even, like I said, even when we are 50 and someone says, well done, great, and they appreciate it, it's a big motivator and a big booster. So we are all children in that particular sense. We have this hunger for recognition. So what happens is we may have grown up in environments where we've not received it. And so we say, I didn't receive it, so I can't give it. I think we should rephrase that and move aside and say that it's good for the child. It's, how a child grows and gets confidence is 30 people, neighbors, teachers, everybody saying, wow, your hair is so nice. Your eyes are so pretty. You're smiling so beautifully, your voice. That's how that child builds its entire personality. So today, if we think I am very confident, it's because someone did something when I was 2 years old. I don't realize that now, but everybody needs that to become confident. And children who are not confident have not got enough of it. Right? So one of the things we say is, I didn't receive strokes. I don't think people need it. I can't go around telling people you're good, you're nice. I can't do that. Okay. Some people will say, if I give strokes, it will go to their heads. Don't praise anybody. Don't overpraise anybody. If you remember any such person you have encountered, you may please put it in the chat box here or tell me later. But we have those kinds of people who say that, and I'm not saying just simply praise for the sake of praising. We'll come to authentic strokes as well. To repeat, stroke is not praise. It's merely a measurement of recognition. If when you don't give strokes, you're controlling the others. It's one way of showing power by not giving a stroke. Some very valuable kinds of stroking are listening. I'm going to do a small module on listening with you. What is listening? Another kind of stroke is keeping in touch with people. When you're generous, you're giving a stroke. When you're forgiving someone, you're giving a stroke. All these are strokes. Can we move on? Let me just go to the chat box and let me see if there are any questions over here. Okay. Now we are looking at feedback, right? Having done what positive psychology tells us about strokes, now based on that, we are going to look at feedback. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to give you small caselets and we will try and analyze that. Now there is this senior person in your organization. If you're a teacher, make it your HM. If you're an HM, make it your beat officer, whatever your role is, right? There is a senior person in your organization who is judgmental and who is impatient. This person does not listen to genuine grievances. You want to tell this person to listen to important matters. How will you say it? Let me hear it on the chat box, please. Or unmute yourself and speak. Anyone?
Ma'am, we can play some example before.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you, Apurva.
So I would request our HM maybe or officers that this is something really very genuine. Could you please lend me some time, or could you
Okay.
just hear my plea, something like that?
Good. Sudam, I liked what you're saying. Patiently listen, but what will you tell the person? Like the previous speaker said, Neelam, I think, did mention that, I would tell this is very important. What would you tell? Suman, Sujata. There are so many Sujatas in this group. Anyone? All right.
Could
So
we
I'm,
be
yes.
could we all be collaborative and open and come to a common consensus?
Okay. Okay. All right. So we're going to try, right? Can I go to the next slide, please? Here is tip number 1. This is a tip, okay? What all you have said is correct. But usually, feedback is given to people within our jurisdiction. If you are a teacher, then only your students belong to your jurisdiction. So if you are going to tell your boss something, that person is not in your jurisdiction. So frankly, you cannot give that person feedback. That's like level 1, right? I'm just telling you level 1. You can't give that person feedback. But you can talk to the person. You can ask the person, can I share something with you? But to go and give feedback to a person, like, you cannot, we do not have the right today in these times to give feedback to our neighbors' children. We can give feedback to our own children. If it's the neighbor's child, you need the permission of the neighbor's parent. I'm saying today and these days because, when I was growing up, neighbors would pretty much tell us what we could do. They would not wait to tell our parents. Uncles and aunts would give us feedback. Today, uncles and aunts also cannot give feedback without taking permission. So we have to know what is in our jurisdiction. This is something to remember. So supposing I'm a teacher and I am telling one student, let's work in your handwriting. And then I see another student in another class who's not writing well. That student is not in my jurisdiction. Now, of course, all students in the school are under my jurisdiction, but I want you to understand that if you're going to give specific feedback to a student, your first right is over your class. And then you can take the permission of the student or the teacher and say, can I tell this person something? Or ask, even if that student is 5 years old, even if it's a KG class. I know it's not a strict rule. These are guidelines. I'm just trying to tell you, if your boss is not doing his or her job, they're not within our jurisdiction. So our spouses, our partners, our children are first jurisdiction. Our class is our jurisdiction. Maybe a little more. It's exactly like an HM, headmaster, headmistress. Our school is our jurisdiction. What's happening in another school is not our jurisdiction. But yes, as a human being, as a teacher, we want to say something. Ask permission. So if you know what our area of performance is, just ask permission from the other person. Let's go to the next tip, please. I think I have 6 tips, and then we can look at listening. Let's look at the next example. Let's assume that in your school, there is an open feedback system, right? You all have decided that everyone can give feedback to everybody else. Teachers are encouraged to give feedback to other teachers. Now we are talking about peer group, not about teacher and student. And one of your colleagues is always only sitting in the class. She rarely moves to where the students are sitting. And now this is not right. You want a teacher to be in the middle of the classroom interacting with the students, but she's always only sitting over there. And in your mind, that is not good, right? And you want to share it with her as a good friend with good intentions. You want the class also to benefit. So your intentions are clean. You see her in the corridor and she's like simply standing over there. So you go and you give her feedback. How will you give her feedback? What will you tell her?
Ma'am, I can say that I have heard that when my friend was moving around in the class, the children were more happy and they responded well to them, to her instructions.
Very good. Thank you, Sujata Hatangari. Neelam has also typed a few things. Can I tell you? Now, this question, let's go on to the next slide. This is another tip. The corridor is not a place to give feedback. A feedback is a formal thing. Now, this is a friend, you met her in the, it's not a friendly conversation. So you have to take the person's time, you have to take the person's permission, you have to meet in a formal setting. This is important for feedback. Say, can we meet? Can I meet you in your room? There is something I want to share with you. If you don't mind, can I give you this feedback? Take the person's time. Now, if the person is okay to talk in the corridor, it's all right. But I'm trying to tell you as a rule, as a guideline, best to make it formal. Okay, take them to your cabin, your staff room, or whatever it is. Sit over there, or even maybe a Starbucks or wherever it is that but sit over there. Sit and say, "Can I tell you something?" So what you are saying is right. My line of attention over here is to the place. Okay, and the next point says that critical feedback should be given at a private place. No matter how friendly the person or how free the person is. But if you want to appreciate someone, you can do it in public. So in a staff meeting, appreciate people. If you want to give negative feedback and positive feedback, do it in front of everyone. Negative feedback, call the person to a separate place. When students are misbehaving in class also, stick to the positive feedback and tell that one person over there, right? Whoever it is, say Vaibhav, come here, Vaibhav, later, right? After, can I talk to you for 2 minutes, Vaibhav? Call that person. Never share that with the entire class because the class students will start making fun then. That's for children, for adults also. Because all of us are very happy and great at giving labels. You are lazy. See, that teacher also said you are lazy. Okay, so when we give negative feedback, people only remember that. They don't remember that we have changed and we have worked on the feedback. They may not remember it. So appreciation for everyone, critical feedback, one-on-one, face-to-face. So now we may not be able to do too much face-to-face in the next 3 or 4 months, but one-on-one session like this. Okay, arrange for a separate meeting. Yes, Neelam, that's right. The other person needs respect, even if that other person is 3 years old. Anyone who has dealt with a 4-year-old child will know how big they are on ego. I will not say sorry. You've seen those kinds of children, right? I mean, they are very big on ego. There are many things they will not do. But these that I'm telling you today apply to all human beings, whether they're 60 or they're 30 or 10 or 3, So next slide, please. This is another caselet, right? One of your students, let's say grown-up student, I know you have, Sarika, yes, all of us have sons and daughters like that and neighbors. Even our dogs don't listen to us. So everybody has a mind of their own, that is important. Sarika was saying my son is like that, so I'm responding to that. Now here is the next case which says, let's say grown-up student, 10, 12, I know that's the age group, but whoever, 18, 20, whatever age group. One of your students is always distracted. She also troubles others sitting around her. She laughs most of the time. She interrupts the teaching session. Her nails are manicured and painted, and she keeps running her fingers through her silky hair, which is very distracting. You call her to your room. How will you give her feedback? Now you're following the other rules, right? You're calling her to a room. You're making it one-on-one. You're making it private. You're taking her permission. But what will you tell her? Yes, Archana, would you like to try? Kalpesh? Shrikant, Sophia, anybody?
Ma'am, we can try to explain to her that doing this distracting means she's laughing most of the time. It interrupts the others, and manicuring. We can explain to her that even she will be affecting in her studies. It will be affected her studies also.
Yeah. Okay. It's nice.
Hello,
Sujata,
ma'am.
Kindly, we can
Sujata,
Hello.
talk to her.
Sujata, I like what you had to say also, that it's good to be fashionable, but that's very negative, unconditional good to be fashionable. Don't do it over here. But yes, Apurva, thank you. Just let me check and see if there's this type.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello, ma'am. Sophia here.
yes, Sophia.
Ma'am, I would like to call her and talk to her. I'll say her, you look so beautiful.
Uh,
It's very nice that you're maintaining yourself, but you should follow discipline in the school. There are some rules. We come here in school to learn to learn the discipline. We cannot behave in such a way. So, like all students are following rules, you should also follow the rules. You can do all this at your home, but when you come to school, you should come in a disciplined manner. Thank
right.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sophia. That's a nice tone in which you have said you're also praising, but I want you to understand and different thing, which is you are not disciplined. You know what I hear as that student is, you are not disciplined. Now, when you tell someone you are not disciplined, remember, indirectly, but you're not using those words, but that's what I hear. And what happens is it becomes negative, unconditional. You are indisciplined. We'll try that, right? It's a slow process and we'll get into it. But here, can I go to the next slide? This is the next step. This step number 3 is, don't discuss multiple issues. You are distracted, you're laughing, you don't pay attention, you're putting your hair and you're painting your nails. Too many things, don't focus on it. Don't focus on the person, focus on the issue. I have this little quotation from so here you'll have to, from the Hanuman Chalisa. In that Hanuman Chalisa, those of you who are familiar with Hanuman's rescue of Sita, if you're familiar with that story, there is a line which says, Sukshma Rupadhari. He took a Sukshma, Hanuman took a small form in front of Sita. Vikata Rupadhari Lanka. When he wanted to burn Lanka, he took on this big Virat form. But when he came to Sita, he came as a tiny monkey. When he went to Ravan, he became this giant of a monkey. Why? Why did he not go as a big giant in front of Sita? A giant monkey. Being humble, okay. What else?
Respect.
Respect. Okay, those are one way that
Faith.
those are some ways of looking at it. But when a person is scared and a person is in fear, Sita is sitting and crying, you don't go and scare her. Yes, that's right, Archana. She might get scared. Now, all of us have different levels of accepting. If I say your hairstyle, you're wasting time on your hairstyle, you're painting your nails, if I go on like that, I don't know how much. Some people can take a lot. Some people can't take even one. So best to stick to one feedback at a time, or maybe two feedback. Listen when you're doing that to our own children, how we are doing it, according to the situation. If I'm getting nervous, while receiving the feedback, don't give me everything. Just give me a little bit. Let me change my behavior and then we do. So don't focus on the person. You are like that. Your hair is like that. Focus on the issue. Yes. The issue is, are you distracted? Are you bored? Are you not able to write? Can I make my lecture better? How can I make it interesting for you? That's also feedback to the child. Right? So that's the next step. Don't focus on 3 or 4 issues. If all issues are there, Just do it one by one. Next slide, please. Now, one of your students, it could be a colleague, right? It could be a colleague, it could be anyone, always comes late. You have been noticing this for 15 days. You have kept an account of how late the student has been on each day. How will you give feedback to the student?
You may talk to the student,
I know,
taking
you
him
have
in
to.
private,
Okay.
asking him the problem, what is the reason behind of him or her coming late to school,
Yes.
and understand the problem.
Thank you, Apurva. What is your intention in giving that feedback to the student? What do you want the student to, which behavior do you want the student to change?
He should come in time.
Very good. The student must come in time, right?
Come in time.
That's what we want. Punctuality, yes. Let's go to the next slide because this is the tip. Now, we said that we wait for 15 days to give the student feedback. Feedback is meaningful only when it is timely. No point in giving feedback when there is no time to incorporate change. I can't say after one entire semester to a student, you didn't work hard. So feedback has to be given for behavioral changes. Now the student has come late on day 1. Maybe you can wait for a day 2. But I don't think you should wait for 15 days because you want the student to come on time. You can't wait for an entire month. Now, you know, when we give assignments to students and we correct, I know how it is in Bombay University, for instance. I write my exam in May, I get my results in September. That's very poor feedback. Students have forgotten what they have written. So when you give a student a homework, you quickly look into the book is feedback, timely feedback. So one of the important features about giving feedback is that it should be not overly delayed, not after too many days. You cannot tell a person, 6 months I saw you were doing this. I mean, 6 months is too long. So you would tell it on, you know, the 10th day or the 12th day so that the person within 6 months could get a chance to change. Instead of accepting that behavior for so long and then saying you didn't change, right? Okay, next slide, please. Here's another one. There's a person who's very enthusiastic, right? And we'll always find that in our team, offers to do work, but this person forgets to do some part of the work. For instance, for a parent-teachers meeting, the person would have said that he will send the invitations, he will send the reminders, he'll set up the class, he'll keep student records ready, but he forgets to set up the class and inform teachers of who has to meet whom. How will you give this person feedback? I mean, this is an enthusiastic person. You don't want to take away the enthusiasm. How will you give the person feedback?
If that person is very close to me, I can give him a checklist and tell him to mark a tick.
Very good. Even if the person is not close to you, Sujata, even if the person, you want that person to do well, right? And therefore the whole event becomes good. And you know that this person slips up. I think it's a good idea to give the person a checklist and to say, let's do all of this, right? These are things that need to be done. And if you're the boss of that person or the coordinator and you have delegated the task to him, very good to give the checklist and to follow up. Let's go to the next slide, which will tell you the tip. Thank you. So first, begin with the positives, right? You're very enthusiastic and you have taken on the responsibility to arrange the teachers meeting, student teachers, student parents, or teachers parents meeting. So you can say all the things, focus on one issue, say that's the checklist that you're giving, give that action plan, and you can follow up. How can you follow up? Take permission. Tell the person, is it okay if I remind you about this? Is it okay if I give you a reminder call? Just to check if everything is going well. The chances are the person will say, of course you can remind me. And the person, if is offended, also will say, no, no, I'll remember. You know, whatever they say, but at least you would have given a chance to that person to take on responsibility. So that you want to see a change in their behavior, that enthusiasm should be there, but that action should also match enthusiasm. A lot of people are super enthusiastic for small things and they forget the bigger things. So, you know, when you want that balance, that checklist will work. So this is that tip 5 to maintain a person's enthusiasm. We'll go to the one last one. Jyoti, thank you so much for presenting. Here we are. Now you have to observe classes and give documented feedback to the teachers. Your senior tells you that you do not observe enough number of classes. Now we are reversing the situation, right? Now you're receiving feedback. You're not giving feedback. You're receiving it. How are you receiving it? Someone tells you, you should observe more classes. That's the feedback. I want you to know that this feedback is incomplete because it is not specific. What does more mean? Right? What does more mean? We don't know. So it's not a great kind of feedback, but let's assume that the feedback you get is you have to observe more classes. Tell me, how will you receive it? What will you tell that senior, whoever is giving you the feedback? See, if it is a colleague who's giving it, if it's a peer feedback, you know what, very often what we do is we say, you mind your business, okay? You don't tell me how many rooms you. That's why I have said, yeah, Sophia is saying, I will reply, surely ma'am, if I get some more time, which means you're accepting that you're not doing enough observation. Okay, then take it positively. And what will you do, Apurva? Observe more classes?
Ma'am, I'll say be more clear exactly what you want me to do.
Very good, but I'm sure we'll do it more politely because it's a senior who's doing it. Let's go to the next slide. That is nice because we need to know that, right, clearly. So when you are getting feedback, when you are receiving feedback, you must listen calmly. You must not contradict. You must not justify. I'm saying all this, you must not. But again, these are guidelines, but I want you to be aware of yourself when someone gives you feedback and we start giving reasons. You say, no, only yesterday I came late. You know what happened? This happened. It never happens. This is the first time it has happened. We do all these we justify, we debate. So don't react. I'll tell you why. What I mean by don't react is, of course, we are going to get hurt. But what I'm trying to say over here is, say thank you to the senior who's giving you feedback. Because that senior has actually spent time. One, observing what you have done. Two, talking to you. Very gently, very politely ask your senior, so how many times a week is good for me to observe classes? Supposing the person says at least 4 times you should observe a class. Then you give your responses, surely, sir or madam, I've been observing class 3 times a week. I will do it 4 times. This more, less are all non-specific. So feedback must be specific. There was a survey that was done asking the husband and the wife, right? Do you go out to eat? How often do you go out to eat? The husband said, very often, 3 times a week we go out. And the wife said, we don't go out very often. We go out only 3 times a week. Both of them are telling 3 times a week. For one, it is very often. And for the other, it is not often at all. Okay, so that very often, more, less can be specific. But these are the tips for receiving feedback. Say thank you, accept it. See, a lot of people also give us positive feedback, whether it is positive or negative, because we are adults and our personalities are already molded. Use your own sense to know whether the feedback is valuable or not valuable. If you don't agree with the feedback, leave it. Don't begin to transform your personality to suit someone. That because you're an adult, you know what is to be done. Sometimes people see something in us that we don't see positively, right? A lot of people might say, you're so methodical, you're so methodical. But deep down, you think you're not methodical. But if 3 people tell you you're methodical, accept it. They're able to see it. Then don't say, I'm not methodical. They are able to see something that we are not able to see. So feedback has its strengths as well. Can we go to the next slide? So a quick recap. Check your motives before you give feedback. The intention. Intention is not to harm. Intention is not to hurt. Intention is improvement of the other person and betterment of the organization. While giving feedback, stick to data. Don't focus on the person. Look at the task. One nice bit to follow is say, what you're doing, this that you're doing is very good. Please continue doing this. This that you're doing is not very good. Stop this. Can we do something new? The 3-step, right? Stop this, continue this, start this. Stop, start, continue. With older children, you can do that. This is very good. Please do it. Okay. This can become better. This, I think you should stop doing. So that is one key. It's a model. So you can use your own models with your own creativity. Then be timely. Don't do it once a year. You know, we have a feedback day and I'll give you feedback. It's a continuous event. It's a process. In a staff meeting, it's a culture that you have to develop. Once your staff room is used to the culture of getting feedback, it will become healthy. And because you are all starting on a new process, it is very important that you start this feedback process. And you will see in 2 or 3 years how naturally you start accepting feedback. Initially, it will be a little difficult because you will resist feedback from people. Gradually, you'll realize that this is best for the school. Without harming another person, we can do that. Continue, please. Next slide. Yeah. Then begin with positives. Many of you knew that and you said that. Move on to areas of improvement. Focus on 1 or 2 areas. Give a plan of action and evaluate the progress. I want you to do this. Can we try and do that within 15 days? Can we try and check that again within 2 months? Is it okay if I check back with you? So if you give a time period and evaluation, that will make it effective. So if it is improvement purposes feedback, give it face-to-face in a private place. Again, very, very important. Make it conditional and not unconditional. Focus on the performance, not on the person. While receiving feedback, you can ask people for feedback, right? It's a very good thing to tell people, can I get some feedback? It's a good thing. When they give you feedback, listen to it. Don't debate. You can politely ask for clarification. You know, in a classroom, let's say a session like this, a webinar like this, there are 30 people or 20 people or whatever. 18 people say very good. 2 people say not good. The human mind is such that we'll keep thinking of those 2 people. Why did they say it's not good? We will forget that 18 people have said it is good. But our mind will go to that negative. You know, in a classroom, 1 person is talking, our whole attention goes to that 1 person. Then others are listening to us. But we will say, why are you talking? Why are you talking? Of course, we have to stop them. But our entire attention cannot get diverted over there. So do not obsess too much about negative feedback. And when someone is genuinely giving you authentic feedback, recognize that intention. As children, we can't recognize, right? Children have a lot of problems with parents. They have a lot of problems because when we think in our mind, we are telling them for their good, they're not able to see it. Right? But as adults, we know what is good for us, and we'll look at that. Maybe one more slide, please, on receiving and giving feedback. You may just take a picture of this if you want to on your phones. I'm sure this will be shared with you. I've already given it. You can keep it. But I'll give you about 20 seconds to please look at while giving feedback. If it is negative feedback, if it is criticism, give it like this. If it is praise, give it like this. I'm going to add one over here about be specific. Sometimes we give deflected feedback, you know, in a staff room meeting, we'll say, some people do these kinds of things. Now, we don't know who that some people are. I want to give Apurva feedback, but I won't give it directly to Apurva. I will tell Neelam about it in Apurva's presence. You know, I will tell Neelam, both are there. Neelam is also standing, Apurva is also standing, and I'll tell Neelam, there are some kinds of people who never understand, you know, what is to be done. The message is for Apurva. This is called a carom board shot. You hit
Indirectly.
and goes there.
Indirectly.
Don't do all that. Let's not play games. Okay, because this is a genuine, authentic session. So let's not play carom board games. Let's be specific and let's be direct. And if you don't like it, you can say, please, I'm not able to handle it. Stop it over there. Just say, I had to say what I had to say. I leave it to you. Okay. Next slide, please. This is while giving feedback. Now we look at receiving feedback. When you're receiving criticism, do all these things. When you're receiving appreciation, say thank you. Very difficult for us, you know, in India, we say, no, I didn't do anything. They only did it. The whole team did it. When someone is praising you, it's okay to have self-worth and to say thank you. And sometimes when someone praises us, we think they also have to be praised. And someone says, your sari is very nice. Say, your sari is also very nice. We don't have to do that. We don't have. Just say thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's good. Again, these are not rules, these are guidelines, and you can be aware of how you behave during these circumstances. Easier to give feedback than receive feedback. So let us try and receive feedback as much as possible so that we know what it means to be giving feedback. Let's go to the next slide, please. And this is the last small unit that we are doing. It's a small unit in terms of the time that we are giving to you. It's one of the biggest units that we will ever understand in a communication situation. First, there's a difference between hearing and listening. So hearing is something external. It comes and you're hearing me, but we are looking at another word called deep listening. Okay. I've not put the slides on it because I want you to listen. Now, when you're looking at the slides, you're reading, you're looking at me. I don't know where your attention is, but now I want you to listen. There are some body movements that go with listening. You can read that up on what you should do. You know, you can't be on your mobile tapping messages and say, yeah, I'm listening, you carry on. That's very poor listening. You should look at the person face to face, and while the other person is talking to you, so that you're able to tell them, yes, you're listening. A lot of parents do that, right? They're reading the newspaper and the child is talking. And they say, yeah, I'm listening to you. But you look at that child. That is how the child understands a stroke. Adults also understand it like that. So I'm going to give you a sentence and I want you to give me an answer to it. You have come back late from work and either your child or your mother, right? I'm going to take just these two cases. Someone says, you're late. You're late. What will you tell that person? Agree. Kalpesh will say there was traffic. Swati will say...
We'll give the reason why we are late.
Okay. Apurva will give a reason why she was late. Now, everybody try and tell me more. Give justification. Jyoti says, accept, give justification, which means why are we late? Okay, so this is my yes, I'm late. Now Neelam is saying, I'm sorry. Suman will say sorry.
Ma'am, I'll say, please let me sit for 5 minutes, then I will talk.
Sorry, Sujata, what is it?
I'll say, please let me sit for 5 minutes, then I will talk.
As soon as I come in, don't give me feedback. Okay. So, all right. Let's look at this. Huh? The child or the parent, whoever says you're late, then we say why we are late. There was too much work. There was traffic. We had a meeting. It was a tiring day. You know, what you have heard is, why are you late? But that's not what the child said. The child said, you're late. What did you hear? Why are you late? That is why you gave that answer. I am late because. I agree I am late. What have you heard? Depending on what you hear will be your response. So those who said, I'm sorry, what did you hear? Neelam, what did you hear? Unmute yourself.
Why are you late?
Is that what you heard? So you give a reason.
Yes.
But those who said, I'm sorry,
Because it's my kid. So I felt, I mean, I am late and I should have been on time for him. So, out of concern.
articulation over here is, you know, when we say sorry, when we hear that child waiting for you. Now, the child is not going to say, I'm waiting for you. That adult also doesn't know to say, I'm waiting for you. But are you able to hear that? If you hear that, you will say, I'm sorry. If you hear, why are you late? You will give an answer, traffic, work. Depending on what we hear, will be our response. That is called listening. Listening to that which is not said, because for some strange reason, we can talk for 3 hours, but we cannot speak our hearts. Even as adults, we cannot directly ask. Sometimes we also don't know. Now take an example. Thank you, Sudham. Take another example, okay? Someone says, I don't like all this technology. There's too much work. I didn't sign up for this program. I wanted to look at my students face to face. I like to use the blackboard. I don't like all these new kinds of trainings that are coming in. Old-fashioned training is so good, you know. We are good teachers and we can do that. What do you hear? Supposing you tell that person, stop complaining, move on with the times, new times. What have you heard? You have heard a complaint. Yes, they don't want to accept change, Suman says. Yeah. That is what you have heard. But Suman, what will you hear in order to do things differently? That person is not able to say something. What is that person not saying? No, not that, Sudham. Even
Not interested.
if you hear that, then you will say lazy person. These people are like.
Not interested.
Yes, Apurva, if that is what you hear, then you have made your mind up. This person is not resisting change. Accept. Oh, this is judgment, labeling. Yes, Suman, try a little more. This is called empathetic listening. Supposing what you listen to is that person saying, I need help. If that is what you listen to beyond the complaint, you can tell the person, no, that person is not frustrated. So all these are, you know, what we are hearing. But if you are able to hear, you can ask the person, how can I help you? But in order to say that to the person, you should have heard that the person is asking for help. But what do we hear? Complaint, frustration, resistance. If you hear all of that, they're all hearing on it. It's all listening of different kinds. But when someone complains, during the lockdown, we say, I have to do so much work. Every work I have to do at 9:30, I have to be in front of my comp also. I have to finish my cooking and I have to come over here. If you hear a complaint, you will say, don't complain. If you hear recognition requirement, you will say, wow, you're a superwoman. What do you hear? Based on what you hear will be your response. So when we are giving some kind of feedback, what are we hearing? So listening is very deep and it's important. I'm hoping that you get the point that children and adults can never speak their minds openly. But they will say all these things. So if you want to help a person, there is something you should hear. But if you say this person always complains, this person is like that, your response will be like that. Is that okay? Yeah. I'll just conclude by going on to the next few slides. So to conclude, what we have seen is an overview of guidelines for receiving and giving feedback. A very brief minimum introduction to deep listening skills. Listen to that which is not being said. And if we do that, the workplace can be more trusting and work will be more efficient. And then feedback giving will be easy to give. All right, next. So this is your homework, action points. For your own growth and your own development, all of us have to be reflective at all times. So these are reflection points. Give a positive stroke to 3 people today. Conditional, unconditional, whatever. Ask for a positive stroke for 1 person today. Ask for it. Give yourself a positive stroke. And then after doing it, ask yourself, what was easy, what was not easy? It is easy to give strokes. It's not very easy asking for strokes. Sometimes it is very difficult stroking oneself. And remember, we have to stroke ourselves. I'll just give you one small anecdote because I'll take a few questions. We started about 15 minutes late. I'll just take 10 minutes. I'll ask you to ask me questions, whatever you have. I'll stop with a little anecdote. There was this lady with her child in a pram, in the trolley. And that's right, Sudham. We are in that trolley and we are walking. And this lady is walking in the mall. And she's going from one aisle to the other. She's picking up things. Her 4-year-old child is sitting inside that trolley, right? And the 4-year-old child is saying, Mom, I want this. Mom, I want that. Mom, I want that. And she goes on saying, Monica, just one more aisle. We'll pay the bill and we'll go off, right? Monica, we're around the corner, Monica. It's getting over. We are going, right? Monica, we are there. We are paying the bill. No, you're good, Monica. You're doing great, Monica. You're fabulous, Monica. We are going around over there. We are paying the bill there, Monica. We are at the counter. It's over. It's getting over. And then she pays the bill and she comes out. Now, one man who has been seeing her goes to her and says, wow, you are so patient. You were so patient with your daughter. To which this lady looks at him and says, my name is Monica. My daughter's name is Susan. She's been talking to herself. Monica, you can do it. Monica, you will go here. It's important to give ourselves strokes. Give yourself those strokes and move on. Reflect on it, see what was easy, what was not easy. A couple of slides more. Let's go to the next slide, Jyoti. If there are any suggestions, this is how we end any feedback. Please give me feedback. Ask for feedback whenever you want to. And what kind of a feedback is this or this? Give me a title so that I know you remember. This or this would be what kind of a feedback? If you remember, it's a non-verbal feedback. Okay,
Verbal,
non-verbal, no words of it.
non-verbal.
Non-verbal feedback. Do I have another one, or is this the last one? Jyoti, is this the last one? Last slide?
Yes, ma'am. This is the last slide.
Right. So you can do this or this later and tell me, you don't have to do it face to face. I know face to face will be this afterwards when you look at it. So now I will keep the floor open for questions. Whatever questions you have. Even if I'm not able to answer it, it's important to ask the question, because then you as a team, you will always be a team wherever you are, and you can. Jyoti, I can't thank you enough for running this through for me. Viren, I haven't heard anything from you. I know that name is not Viren Desai, but whoever is using that computer. Sudham had written, nowadays we don't listen to understand, we just to reply or to give feedback. It is so true, Sudham. No one has the patience to listen to why, during this COVID times, there has been on WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups, so much of conflict. Wear mask, don't wear mask, do this, do that. And let the maids come, let the maids not come. Nobody is listening. If you were listening, your response would be different. I can also share with you that, one person right in the beginning during lockdown phase 1, someone was saying that you can't walk in the colony, right? Someone said, who will stop us from walking? This is not curfew. Okay, all this is in WhatsApp. This is not curfew. And another person says, legally, no one can stop us from walking. To which another person says, are you a lawyer? So this person says, yes, I'm a lawyer. I've studied law, and then gives, some rule book. To which the other person says, you may be a lawyer, but you need to study more. Unending conversation, because they're not able to hear what is not being said, that I am scared. You don't walk out, I am scared. If you hear fear, your response will be different. If you hear control, don't walk. Who are you to walk? If you hear that, your response will be different. And then there's a spiral and we'll all start fighting. Suman's question, how are negative strokes better than no strokes? Suman, let's take the example of a child, right? The answer to that is, when I'm giving you a negative stroke, the broad answer is, at least I'm recognizing that you're there. Okay, at least I'm recognizing you. Refusing to recognize your identity completely can be very devastating. To pretend that a person like you doesn't exist at all. Supposing we are 4 of us sitting on a table and we are eating. I serve myself, I serve the person next to me, and I serve a third person, and I don't serve the fourth person. Yeah, that is very devastating. I'll tell you what a negative stroke. I'll take the example of a child. Okay. Now, there are children who will go on asking the same question. Why? And you've told them, for instance, why does the bird fly? We say it has wings. Why? Yeah, it has wings. Why? It has wings. So patient parents will go on and on. It has wings. I showed you the wings. I'll tell you the wings. After some time, parents say, stop it. I told you, right? It has wings. Then, the child will start with the next question. Because we are hearing the question, why does a bird fly? What we should hear is, the child wants you to look at it and go on talking. The child doesn't want to know why the bird flies. It has now you have told it has wings, it's over. But it will go on asking, because it's a way of keeping you constantly engaged. Keep looking at me, it's a hunger. Okay. Now, when you say, I've told you enough, it's gone, then the child will, the child will ask the next question. And then the child will say, shall we go out? Shall we go out? Shall we go out? Shall we go out? You have said no. I've told you no once. Shall we go out? Shall we go? Now, you say, I'll shout at you if you do that. The child doesn't mind it. At least you're looking at it, right? So the hunger for recognition is so much That even if it is negative, the child and the adult are okay with it, but not complete absence in that sense. Otherwise, negative is not too good. Negative unconditional is bad, but at least you're looking. At least you're looking at me is the deep message that the person gets. You know, imagine if there is a friend's wedding, a close friend's wedding, all your other friends are invited and you are not invited. If it's a very close friend, you would know it's a mistake, right? You might call up, but just think, put yourself in a position where you feel that you have been ignored. We do that all the time, right? In weddings, for instance, in marriages, we tell all Sumangali, come over here. That means widows cannot come. How are they feeling? If you are a widow, you don't come in? How? How do we do such things? Because we don't want to listen and we don't want to see, we don't want to be empathetic. And therefore we give those kinds of strokes. No strokes. All right, any other question? You see, I'm looking at a whole gambit of human interaction, of which we will take some of it into the classroom. Because I think as teachers, we are molding personalities. Such a beautiful clay toy is in front of us. I can tell you with my years of experience as a teacher is my own experience as a student with my teacher. I really don't know who first taught me Spyro Gyra, who said Hyro. I don't remember where I learned that word from. But I would remember my teacher is very kind, this teacher who smiles a lot, this teacher is very strict. Arey Baba, that teacher used to ask tough questions. You know, we don't know what they taught. We remember their personalities. So a teacher is a role model. Just role model your best personality. Kindest, softest, most loving. Because you're dealing with that age group. And it's okay if they don't study. It's okay if they don't study. We have to keep changing ourselves to see what they like to study. And to imagine that everybody must like and love every subject that is being taught is an impossible desire. But we have to make it interesting for the child. I won't talk much. Let me take maybe one more question if you have the time.